Note the disclaimer, and remember that my Patreon supporters got to see previews, work-in-progress shots, and high-resolution images of the completed figure. If you want to join them, even the smallest donation helps. Link is in the description below. Hello out there! Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a commission for ACReinhardt. It is Sonia the Hedgehog. Oh man, this is only the second time I've ever made Sonia. And funnily enough, the first time I made her was actually one of the first times I was ever commissioned to make an official character. I mean, she wasn't wearing the official clothes when I made that, but, that was the first time. So yeah, it's been nearly 9 years since I last made her. So let's go ahead and do it. But first, since this is a character from a relatively obscure part of the Sonic the Hedgehog continuity, you know what we gotta do. The first time that I was exposed to the Sonic Underground continuity was in the pages of Sonic Super Special number 10, which of course was an adventure set in the Sonic Underground universe. It was one of the Sonic the Hedgehog perpendicular cameo things. Basically, evil Sonic helped the Robotnik from that dimension rebuild the giant Borg from the Cyborg Sonic issue, but the proper universe Sonic, along with Sonic and the Underground crew, were able to defeat him and save the day. Now, honestly, I have no idea if the cartoon came first and then this was made as an adaptation to get people interested in it, or if this is the first time Sonic Underground continuity is introduced to fans as a backdoor pilot to the upcoming cartoon. I don't know which came first, but I can tell you that I read the comic first. I actually didn't see the cartoon itself until many years after the comic. So by the time I saw the cartoon, it was already in its syndicated reruns. But let's talk about Sonia from the show itself. In the Sonic Underground universe, Sonic, Manic, and Sonia were triplets, and they were also royalty. They were the princes and princess of Alina, the queen, a character that I've actually made before. And she was also the keyboardist in their little band, because rock music is the source of the rebellion. Sonic grew up with his uncle Chuck, just like he did in the Sat AM universe, and Manic was raised by street toughs, but Sonia was actually raised by a wealthy aristocrat. So she was the one who was actually used to the finer things in life, and she was also characterized as being somewhat vain. I'd actually say that she's probably the Rouge the Bat character before Rouge the Bat was actually a thing. I mean, come on, she has, the arm-length opera gloves and the big boobs. Yeah, she's totally an archetypical Rouge character. And not to show I'm not just blowing smoke, they actually managed to get her in a bikini, not once, but actually twice. And just to prove that this is one of the 90s-ish shows I've ever seen, here's a pink punk-rocking hedgehog girl in a bikini wielding a gigantic gun. I mean, there's so many different definitions of peak 90s that you can possibly show people, but this has got to be one of them. So yeah, it's no wonder that, because she was clearly, within context of the fiction, quite an attractive character, that she actually got shipped a couple times. One was with the Linefeldian Nightmare that was Dingo, one of the villains of the series, but more seriously, she was shipped with Knuckles for the most part. Yes, Knuckles was in the Sonic Underground cartoon, as well as his great-grandfather Athair, who was originally introduced in the Archie comic book. And yes, she was even shipped with Sonic at one point. It's kind of a Star Wars situation where before they found out they were related, she gave him a kiss. Fortunately, it wasn't an open-mouth tongue kiss. That would have been really hard to get over. Okay, so all kidding aside, Sonia was probably most famous for her big old keyboard gun, which transformed into her necklace because of magic. But she actually did seem to have some super speed powers. I mean, nothing like Sonic's, but she would turn into a blurry tornado when she wanted to, so she had something going on for her. Alright, now on to some of the minor controversies. The Archie comic was supposed to do a conclusion story arc to Sonic Underground in Sonic Universe. It was supposed to be their 50th issue, in fact. They were supposed to do an arc which would, do the end of the cartoon that never happened since it got canceled after 40 episodes. Unfortunately, because of the lawsuit with Penders and the forced reboot, this ended up becoming the last issue before the the Worlds Collide crossover with Mega Man. Meaning, it was the issue where Shard had a final confrontation with Metal Sonic instead of the beginning of the end of Sonic Universe, Sonic Underground. They both had the initials SU, so I get confused. Yeah, that's kind of sad that it ended up that way. I would have liked to see a proper conclusion to this storyline, but we might never actually get that because of the way the rights to this continuity is thrown up. There was also a little bit of controversy in Sonia's appearance in Sonic All-Stars Racing. In the casino level, she appeared on the Queen of Diamonds card that was in the whole part of the casino setting. And it turned out that this was not official Sega art as the makers of the game thought it was. It was actually fan art, which was probably picked from a Google image search off of DeviantArt. Sega had to do a public apology because by the time this was found out, the game had already been released and millions of people had already bought it. So, it's not like they could go and get every single copy. So, it might have been that some guy that worked on the Sonic Underground cartoon was just trolling the rest of the staff by sticking in a picture of Sonia into the game, which probably got mistaken for Amy because, Pink Hedgehog. But yeah, that's you gotta remember to double check to make sure your art sources are official, or that you at least have permission to use them before using them in a multi-million-dollar project like a video game that's released on all major gaming platforms. Okay, that took a little longer than usual, but let's actually get to making the toy. The base figure is Amy Rose because, one pink hedgehog into another, it seems simple enough to do. So the first thing is, of course, to smoothen the head, removing the back spines, taking away her sideburn spines, getting everything all ready. So the first thing I have to do is make the head round by sculpting the back of it in and making the two middle spines. I like to let this harden first because then I can make the outer spines in the hair without worrying about accidentally mushing the middle spines in the process. Once all that stuff is molded in place, she's just a quick paint job away from having that pink on pink look. Now, since she's from the Deke cartoon, she's in a semi-classic style with big black irises as opposed to colored irises. So that's how we're going with. And in case you're wondering why I'm going with an actual kind of video game accurate spine pattern as opposed to the triple mohawk from the Deke cartoons, that was at ACReinhardt's request. He wanted the spine pattern to be more like the video games. So the body, just like with Super Genesis Wave Sally, I made it taller by cutting it in half and adding stuff to the middle to make the midriff longer. I also gave it a bit of a boob job because, like I said, she's right up there with Rouge on the scale of busty ladies of the Sonic canon. And as an homage to the style from the Deke cartoon, I added just one big central spine to the middle of her back. Although this is also similar to the way that classic Amy is depicted in her action figure, so it's not really that far off. Then the paint job came, which was a pain because it's red, yellow, and purple. A perfect trifecta of colors that are an absolute pain to paint. But yeah, I got through that and then moved on to the arms. Sculpting in the little bit of her glove cuff above her elbow was simple enough, but removing Amy's ring glove cuff from the bottom was actually you can't remove the entire thing because then the hand wouldn't have anywhere to go in. So I could only really make it this thin. So it's an unpleasant transition on the wrists, but it's a necessary evil if you want to preserve wrist articulation at all. As for the legs, they're just repainted. I decided not to do any modifications aside from just making the proper colors. But now that all the parts are in place, we can actually take a look at the completed Sonia the Hedgehog figure. And here is my first ever cartoon-accurate Sonia the Hedgehog figure. It's funny, I've made Manic twice, so how come I haven't made Sonia twice? You'd think I'd make a Sonia as a companion piece to Manic. Although one of my Manics had Julie Sue as a companion piece of all things. I don't get people. I just don't get people at all. I'm just a guy who makes toys and does not get people. That's why I'm still single. But yes, we have a Sonia, or as Dingo calls her, Sonia. Yeah, it's supposed to be Sonia, so it sounds like a feminized version of Sonic, get it? But Dingo was the only one who would ever call her Sonia, which is how you would think that name would be pronounced based on the way it's spelled. But, you know, it's Sonia. Sonia, Sonia, Sonia. Alright, so this has been my Sonia the Hedgehog figure. And, wow, we just passed the 10-minute mark, haven't we? That's pretty long for a custom video, but, you know, I have to go into her backstory because it's kind of important. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video regardless. We'll see you next time.